This is how the world ends, at least civilization as we know it. Thousands of megatons of nuclear warheads dropped around the world. Those who are still living wish they weren't. Radiational fallout has spread. Sickness, death, destruction. It's all anybody knows. But how did we get to this point? Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm probably going to voice over this, but I'm going to record audio to just understand what I'm thinking, and maybe if I like it enough, I'll go ahead and use it. So I like to retouch upon previous videos, and one video I've done a couple times now is this Ukraine escalation. So the Ukraine of 2025 doesn't look like the Ukraine of 2023 or 2024 even. So ways that we could visualize a potential escalation. I hesitate to use the word realistic because I don't feel like it's realistic that it would escalate to a nuclear level, but we look at a potential. Well, how does that look? How does that avenue? And so looking at the current state of affairs, I have come up with this following scenario, and we're going to take a look at some attack plans, and then we'll run through the actual scenario.
Nigel here. I'm going to go over the scenario in 2025 that leads to all-out nuclear conflict. Shortly after taking office, President Trump attempts to negotiate a ceasefire in the Ukraine war. While both Russia and Ukraine make overtures of a willingness to talk, Russian demands are so strong that Zelensky is unable to come to terms. Russia leverages this to make it appear like Ukraine is the side not working towards a resolution. Relations between Trump and Zelensky deteriorate, and Trump withdraws all material support from Ukraine, while maintaining some back-channel intel assistance. Manny Macaroni, wishing for France to be at the forefront of a united European army, pledges to Ukraine that they will step up in both material aid as well as providing boots on the ground to help secure western Ukraine and parts of their border with Belarus, so that Ukraine troops can focus on the front. Vladimir Maximus Decimus Putin is incensed at the idea of French troops in Ukraine and declares that a red line has been crossed. While threatening all-out nuclear annihilation publicly, through back channels, he reaches out to President Trump to put pressure on France into withdrawing their forces. These back-channel talks have the opposing effect, and instead France and the United Kingdom give Ukraine authorization to use Storm Shadow long-range missiles to strike at any targets in Russia they deem fit. Precision-guided strikes take place all along the front and deeper into Russia than they had ever previously targeted. These are accompanied by swarms of drone strikes penetrating as far as Moscow, hitting key bases and assassinating several high-ranking officers. The Russian populace is heavily shaken by these increased strikes deeper into their motherland, and the Kremlin is fearful that they will start targeting nuclear sites to disable their strategic rocket forces. On March 7, 2025, Vladimir Titus Maximus Putin authorizes nuclear strikes on western Ukraine military bases, where French troops are stationed, as well as two 100-kiloton nuclear warheads targeting the Ukraine government in Kiev. While they strive to minimize civilian casualties by targeting bases in lower populated areas, the warheads dropped on Kiev will kill many civilians. The devastation will be unparalleled. A high-altitude detonation will destroy the power grid and fry any electronics not hardened for EMP strikes. The populace will be paralyzed as they are unable to help their loved ones who are vaporized all around them. In every direction, a maelstrom of violence and death. The blasts will have no pity or remorse as it lays waste. Fires will rage for miles in every direction as the citizens of Kiev die in the hundreds of thousands in an instant. Now I will turn things over to Magnus so that he can show you what happens after the nuclear strikes on Ukraine.
All right, now that Nigel walked you through the scenario, let's go ahead and play it out. So we're going to bring this. We're going to execute all plans. So we're going to pick up here where Russia's making their nuclear strikes on Ukraine. France, due to the advancing Russian forces after the nuclear strikes, decides to make a limited counter force strike against the Russian front to break up their military formations. From that point, Russia, feeling like they were getting their own silos being targeted, are going to start launching a counterforce strike against all of NATO. So we're starting to see some Russian strikes on the United States. So the United States has started launching retaliatory strikes. Ooh, it's hitting my... It's hitting my CPU hard. We got a lot of missiles flying now. Wow. So what's happening is, as you know, as these attacks start happening and people start getting hit with fallout now, everybody's going to meet their maker, more or less. So we're seeing a ton of missiles flying. I'm piping in this audio here after the fact. One of the things I thought was unique about this was I never intended for some of the countries that started lobbing nuclear missiles like India and Pakistan to actually happen. And that's where it started taxing a CPU pretty hard. But I actually kept it and didn't redo it because I thought it was fascinating how quickly things escalated. And I think it brought in that kind of randomness that I really liked in this scenario. So here my CPU is trying to catch up to some stuff, and just want to let everybody know that this actually went a little further than it was supposed to. And I actually think it was kind of a nice addition. So we're seeing some follow-on strikes in kind of these last targeted locations. And I apologize, there's some delay. Like I said, I have a fairly advanced, I don't know the right word. I have a fairly powerful PC, and this one started to cripple it a little bit. A little bit faster to get these final ones loosened. It's kind of silly once these planes are going to continue flying around because their bases have been destroyed or various reasons. All right, I think we're at a point that we can go ahead and pause the simulation. Let's take a look at where we're at now. That's a danger anytime you start escalating the nuclear strikes. Fallout doesn't stop at a border. And so now you can potentially have other countries getting involved, which we saw. China, India, Pakistan. It's one of the reasons why it's critical that the nuclear threshold doesn't get crossed, because it's kind of like a Pandora's box, and once you open it up, it's really hard to control the escalation from there. It's calculating the casualties. So, no particular order by country. There's a weird glitch with this too where it does that. It's extremely annoying. China looks like it's one of the countries hit kind of hardest, but population center wise, it's not a huge amount of their population compared to some of these other nations where percentage wise it's taken a much larger hit. Whoa. It's got a recent update. Okay, it'll do it like this. No, it won't. So the developers, for reasons I cannot explain, when you start to go up, it is automatically taking you down. Now this is going to look at it by country. So if I were to look at United States, we have 12 million barrels per day refining capacity destroyed, 180 hospitals, 60 airports, 37 harbors. Of our oil storage, 314 million barrels. Look at Russia. 3 destroyed airports, 3.9 million barrels per day refining capacity destroyed, 102 million barrels. China. They don't have the largest refinery, but see their losses there too. United Kingdom. So let's look at fatalities. Worldwide, 154,679,200. We're going to have another 19 million cancer fatalities. Over almost 8 million square kilometers evacuated. Let's look by country. Nope, can't do it. Well, it looks like it's doing it on this one. Not much by way of Australia, but let's see what some of the big ones. Belgium, over 800,000. Bulgaria, over 800,000. Canada, 1.7 million. 49 million in China, as we touched upon. 687,000 in Croatia. 613,000 in Czech Republic. 430,000 in Denmark. 9.6 million France. 10.8 million Germany. 1.2 million Greece. Almost 58,000 in Guam. 81,000, almost 82,000 in Hungary. 2.3 million in India. 2 million in Italy. 673,000 in Japan. 800, even, Kazakhstan got hit with 813. There's some other smaller fatalities. Luxembourg, 105,000. And again, these are initial casualties. These are going to grow, larger and larger. I mean, if you think where countries like the United States and China, which would have devastating levels, the amount of stuff they export to other countries, whether it's foreign aid, goods, services, they're not going to have that. Those countries aren't going to be able to take care of themselves at that point. 2 million in Holland, 283,000 in North Korea, 307,000 in Norway, over 1 million in Poland, 524,000 in Puerto Rico, 12.6 million in Russia. Trying to get to Turkey, and 4 million in South Korea, 708,000 in Spain, 233,000 Tajikistan. Turkey, 5 million losses. So kind of gives you a broad, high-level view. Let's look at short-term fallout. I mean, Central Europe just devastated. United Kingdom devastated. What was the United Kingdom's losses? Probably went over that, but yeah, 14 million, almost 22% of their population. In long term, that's going to grow even exponentially. I mean, this is just short term losses. You see a little bit of fallout as we go around the world here. United States, horrific losses. A little bit into Canada, not as much. I mean, I think people get hung up sometimes. They either say the casualties are too low or too high. Most of the time they're saying it's too low on these videos. And I think it loses sight on what's important. The bigger thing is not so much the casualties. It's going to be your just impact on your day-to-day life. I mean, everything you can imagine. You have these high altitude strikes, the electric grids, all your electronics, stuff like that. It's going to be gone. And you're not going to have the infrastructure to rebuild and replace that stuff. And think about like the impact of a COVID and the stress it was on the hospitals. Now imagine this magnified so many times over. And yes, you could look at something like World War II and say, well, the casualties in World War II were very, very high. Maybe they even approached what these initial casualties would be like. But those casualties didn't happen in a matter of 2 or 3 days. And they didn't have the lasting fallout and the other stuff, not to mention the fires. So obviously this is meant to be educational. It's not meant to be predictive. It's not meant to be a bottom line. It's a simulation at the end of the day, and there's going to be people that are going to disagree with it. And by all means, it's not going to be perfect. But I think it reiterates the point that nuclear weapons cannot be used. We're moving back towards a rearmament and a nuclear arms race when we made great strides to reduce the amount of deployed warheads. And we have to hold leaders across the world accountable for that. But get off the little horse there. Hope you enjoyed the video. This Ukraine escalation 2025. I tried to include a kind of worst case scenario that it just went out of hand and went out of hand very quickly, and you saw it tax my CPU, and I got a 7800 X3D, so it's not necessarily multi-core beast that like a 7950 or a 14 or whatever the latest Intel is, 14900K, I don't know. But it's still a pretty powerful CPU, and I got a 4090 GPU, which is about to be supplanted by the 5090, but hey, technology marches on. But certainly it's a fairly powerful PC, and this one kind of wrecked it a little bit. So when I go do the Able Archer goes hot, it'll be interesting because it's going to have far more warheads flying around. I'll have to see how I can best do that. So hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you. Have a great day.